Hi, it's Nancy welcoming you to Garden Scroll. Today is December the 10th, but when I get this post on for you to watch, it will be past Christmas and into the new year of 2022. But I wanted to tell you that my houseplants, although most of them are doing quite wonderfully, actually, but even as I say that, I've lost a few. I thought I lost this one, but I see little new growth coming up on it, so that's wonderful. And some of them aren't doing so great, but you can see there is some life there. And there is still life on this little Swedish ivy. But very little life. Remember how beautiful it was, and now it's just barely there. So I did go ahead and get some clay pots, and today is actually a beautiful day outside, except the wind is outrageously crazy. But I'm planning on putting this into a clay pot. I don't know if that will make a wonderful difference, but I'm hoping it will. This is a Gerber daisy, and it lost everything and then came right back up and has new leaves fixing to go up on it. So, but the thing I totally have lost is this right here, and this, I do not do well with these at all, but this is a Persian Shield. It can be such a beauty with green and purple, that it's gone. There's no need even to put it in a clay pot and give it hope, I don't think. But, and another thing that I'm going to try to put in a clay pot is this beautiful, and it's horrible right now. There's not much beauty, if any, there, but you can tell by the back ones how beautiful it was. And I'm going to try to salvage that by putting it in a clay pot. And I'm going to go ahead and divide it somewhat so that I can put part of it in one pot and part of it in another. I think it may actually be a little root bound, even though I put it in a bigger pot last year. It's just not doing well at all, and it never does well for me when I take it inside. It just begins to lose its little, well, you can see them falling everywhere, and that's exactly what they do, and just makes such a mess on everything. But I'm hoping to be able to save this by putting it in a clay pot today also. But so many things are still doing good that I'm just happy about my little inside plants, even though I'm not good with houseplants at all. But so far they are alive and they are doing fairly well. So that's a good thing. And this is the other, not this one. This one's doing well too, though. I actually killed one of these by letting it stay in water too long. And this is not a clay pot, which it probably needs to have, but I'm going to see if I can get by with not purchasing any more clay pots this year. But this is the one I'm definitely going to put in a clay pot. This is my little crown of thorns. So pretty. You can see the color on it right there if I can get it in focus for you. But anyway, I love this little plant so much. It was such a tiny little thing when I purchased it. And it's outgrown its little pot too. So I'm going to put it in a slightly bigger pot and see if that won't help it to continue to grow. And these are doing well. This did totally help my little aloe vera. I did go ahead and trim off the ones that had stretched out and fallen down. But the others are still standing upright and growing up to the light, and they're not hanging down where I'd have to trim them off. So that's doing great. So is my airplane plant doing good. And my crossander plant is still doing good. See if I can go around here and get this beautiful little, you see behind it there is the polka dot begonia plant. And then my other begonia plants are still doing great too. Look at this beautiful autumn embers plant. And then behind it, my favorite of all the Rex begonias so far is this beautiful Polymer Prince. And I'm going to turn it around because I think maybe you can see some of those beautiful leaves a little better from this other side. But it has charmed me. And I just love this plant. I love the many shades of green, the way it curls, and just, it's truly a prince. I just love it. I still think that my nephew Clifton should have one of these. That's who I think of when I see it, because he does house plants and he does well with them. I love to see his home with his house plants in it. Whereas mine sometimes look like eyesores rather than a beautification. This little plant, I did of course put it in a clay pot, and it's doing okay. It's still alive, and I've killed these before. I've actually never had one to live all the way through the winter and go back out in the spring, but I'm hoping this one will. And then here's some more of my Rex begonias that I love. I just love these little plants. My artillery fern is still doing great. This alternanthera, oh, if I would have known I could keep it as a house plant. I think I tried it once, killed it, and decided I could never do that again. But actually, it's looking great, and I could have been saving these, and I always want these in the spring. I look for these until I find them. So far I have been able to find them, but they break up the greens. There's such a beautiful burgundy. They change colors with the where the sunlight is or where the shade is. They just make a beautiful burgundy, a beautiful garnet, a beautiful ruby color. You just never know. Just go out and see the beauty of it. And then this little begonia is actually living for me and looking good. I always want one of these, at least one in the garden too. This little waffle plant, the purple waffle, it was hanging down, and I had to take off all the dry leaves that had died on it. But there were a few that didn't totally go dry, and it's perking back up since my little trip to South Carolina, and I didn't lose any. This was the one that looked the worst. Now, as I said, I did lose my Persian Shield, but I don't think that was because I left it. It just began to, oh, look how bright and pretty these colors are. I was thinking I had one that was more red, but then it just kind of turned the greener color. But you can see the different variations in the leaves, the color on the leaves, so pretty. So the little cuttings in the windows are doing well too. This is a gift from our grandson and his wife, and I just love it. I know it's seasonal and its season has passed, but I still love it. You know, scarecrows are for all time. How cute. Okay, so while this is probably not the time to be doing this, it is the time to be doing this, because look at that. I was right, it is root bound. It looks terrible. So, but it also looks like it's still healthy enough to pick back up and go. So my husband is going to chop this in two for me. So the wind is blowing so hard out here today that it's actually blowing it over after I got it in there. But we'll take them inside and give them a good watering. and put them back inside and hope that they enjoy their new homes for the winter. Today is December the 15th, but on our Garden Scroll channel we have already began the new year, so we're going to have a little bit of the ending season of the 2021 garden on, because that is what is in the garden right now. And by the time I get this on, we possibly could have had some snow or something, but today is actually a very beautiful day. And of course the garden is gone. You can remember when these were bright and beautiful, but they're all gone now. Look, we had, as I said in an earlier post, we did have our late fall or our full fall. It didn't get taken away by winter, but we got to enjoy some beautiful fall color and beautiful fall weather, being in the garden when it was not terribly hot or frozen. So it was a wonderful fall season in the garden. Our winds, true to form, have taken out a bunch of the garden stuff, as far as knocked things over, blown off some of my plastic that I put on to give the little garden art a little bit of protection from the elements of winter. And though Christmas will be over when I get this post on, right now it's not over, and there's lots of Christmas excitement still going on. We're planning to go see our daughter that lives in Texas, and just lots of exciting things for Christmas. Christmas is always a wonderful, exciting time for me. I love Christmas. I've often said I love Christmas from Bethlehem to Whoville. I like Christmas a lot. Oh, and I'm seeing that this has gotten blown over, and this is glass, so I'm going to take the time to go ahead and wrap this back up, as well as this little garden piece here, because it's the type of material. I'm not sure what material this is, but it will crumble when it gets hot and then cold too many times, sometimes just one time. And then here's another little glass thing. I'll need to put this that got blown off, put it back on there. I was letting these little seeds dry over on the other side, and the wind has blown them totally over the side of the fence. But sometimes the things that just happen in nature are also good things, so maybe I just needed some seed on both sides of the fence. There's actually still little bits of color in the garden, even though a lot of it has gone away. And also we did get all of our iris that, unless we may have missed a few here and there, but for the biggest part we got all of the irises trimmed down. I didn't trim down the daylilies. They'll be so much easier to do in the spring when they've totally came loose from the root, and we'll just rake those up and throw them away. But there will still be lots of work to do in the garden. But I'm going to try to do a little bit along as we get a pretty day, because it's just such a daunting, hard, long job to get it all cleaned out and ready for spring. And when spring gets here, I'm ready to plant. I don't like messing with this old dead stuff. I want it out of there so I can start all over again. We also got, I think, all the peonies clipped back, and as you can tell right here, oh my goodness, this is another work of our winds that get so strong and just take things out. But of course the live things in here were already dormant or gone. I think I had all annuals in this little pot, so they're gone till next year anyway. So I'll probably pick some of this up and maybe just leave it down there on the ground rather than put it back up on its little stand where it would just get blown away again the next time the wind gets high. But even though I don't try to just keep a winter garden, look at this beautiful kale. It's a wonderful winter plant if you want to do gardening in the winter, which I do very little of. It's time for me to rest. But I do like to have just a little bit of winter interest to come out, and I love to see it when it's got frost or snow on it. It's so pretty. If we get a chance, I'll get you some of those pictures too. We'll have to wait and see what the winter holds, but I'm pretty sure it will hold some of that. But look, right now today it's just trying to bud back out. It's just wanting to go. The weather is so nice. It's actually been in the 60s the last 2 days, but we'll get back to our colder weather. And as you can tell, all the leaves are gone off most of the stuff, not all of it, but a great deal of it. All the leaves are gone. This is a rose which still has some of its leaves, but these others are totally gone or just all brown. And we are needing rain, and I'm not so much aware of that in the winter time. And I know that in the fall it does need to not be watered very much so that it can harden off and make it through the winter. But we definitely need rain because the ground is getting very hard, and it needs some softening and some refreshing. Look, some of the mums still have some beautiful fall color on them, but this being December the 15th, by the time this gets put on, it will be in the first part of January, I believe, is when I will get this on for you to see. And by that time, most likely all of it will be gone. There's a little color there too, but a lot of the mums have already lost all their color. Just look at these little fall iris. They're still thinking, well, it feels like fall to me. This little mum has lost most or all of its color, as well as this one has. So it's kind of in the bleak midwinter, but there will be lots of things to tell you and show you and go back to look at until spring comes again, and it will come actually all too soon for me. I've got to where I totally enjoy my winter, where I can rest and dream and regroup and recharge and just go back and look at some of the things we've done. But I will want to do some of the things that I've gotten the habit of doing it for the YouTube channel too, the things where I tell you what worked and what did not work and what I learned for this season, because we're always learning, and there's several things that I learn each season to make the garden a little better or to save it a little better, and just so many different things that we learn each time as we go about life. We're always learning. During some of my running around for Christmas, I visited with my sister Kathy, and she was showing me that she brought in her aloe vera, and I have to show that to you because she hasn't divided it yet, and it's gonna be such a chore to divide, but it is so beautiful. I'll have to show that to you. And also her cactus, look, she has she started with a scraggly little piece of one that she tried to bring back to life, and she now has 5 pots of the cactus. And they have even bloomed for her. So this is my sister's aloe vera that I've told you about before on the YouTube channel. Look at all of these. She's going to have to divide this, and it was so beautiful. I know she didn't want to divide it because it's so big and just gorgeous. But yeah, you can see a million. Well, maybe not quite, but not too much of a stretch. Little aloe vera coming up in there. Oh, mine, this one back here is just as big as this one right here. So there's 3, actually make 3 giant ones in there and many, many little ones. But as I have said before, it's beautiful to be in the garden when the weather is beautiful. Even though the actual garden is looking like this, there's enjoyment in walking around in the garden, just being in nature and feeling the atmosphere, the air, just the presence of God. Look, as this is dying or going dormant. It's not dying, it's going dormant. Now this one is dying because it will not come back from the root. But as you can see, this is the sedum and it's trying to come up. It will get too cold for this to actually come up and it will die or go dormant again. But it will come back in the spring, just like it's trying to do now, because we're having such pretty weather right now in December. But it's a bit amazing to find what you can still see beautiful in the garden. Look at this. This is some of the sedum that's still green. I told you I clipped back my peonies, and look at this. This is how they look in the spring. It's nice enough for them to try to go ahead and put their little shoots up. But as I said before, these will not last, because we will, most likely anyway, it will be shocking if we don't have some really winter weather. Actually, it is now in December, and it's December the 17th, and by the time I get this on, it will be in January, and we may already be having some really cold weather at the time this post is put on my YouTube channel. Look at this, protected by the south side of a building. Look at this. It's not so surprising that these little sweet william are coming up in this pretty weather, but I cannot believe I found a coleus that hasn't been destroyed by the cool already. I left this little strawberry fields last year, and I thought, well, I made a mistake to leave it because I didn't see any sign of it coming up. And then little by little, these came up. As you know, if you've been watching any of the posts, you know that I've dug up a bunch of these and transplanted them in other places, because they did eventually go ahead and show up. So sometimes when we just leave the plants outside to drop and come up on their own as volunteers, they get the stratification that they need through the winter, where they're in the elements, they're getting wind and rain and cold and heat and sunlight and just whatever the season brings. But for some reason, that's what helps the seed to get ready to germinate, in the spring. Lots of times we need to bring our seeds out and put them out early so they get at least some of the winter cold or the early spring chill, so that they will be ready to go ahead and germinate and sprout for next season's garden. And that's why so many things like hollyhocks, these little strawberry fields, and I'm not thinking of right now of some of the others, but I know that those plants are hard to start from seed, and that's the reason why. So actually we just need to leave them out. I'm actually trying to leave some in the shed where they get the cold, but of course they won't get other elements but of just being outside. But hopefully I'm going to see if they will go ahead and sprout for me for next spring and produce flowers for me. And the ones I'm really trying right now are the Rudbeckia, the ones that well, all of it, I like it all, but the ones that I grew this last season were the ones that were yellow with a deep brownish red circle around the inside, brown circle, and they were just so eye-catching and beautiful. Please be sure to like and subscribe to the channel.